Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're watching from and what time you are watching. It is your girl, Marcy Thomas, and I am really excited to be here with you for another episode of the BGC Book Club, where we strongly believe in celebrating books that are by, for, and about us all throughout the year, not just because it's Black History Month. This is what we do regularly here in this space. And I am glad to be with you for another great opportunity to discuss a book that I read and loved. I didn't even get a chance to tell the author that yet, but I really enjoyed reading her book. I devoured it in the space of the day, and I can't really wait to get into the story with you. So if this is your first time watching, I'm founder of Brown Girl Collective. I have been doing Brown Girl Collective actually for 15 years, and the book club itself is about 4 years old. Actually, it will be in April. And over the years, as you saw in the opening video, we've had a lot of wonderful authors, and I'm looking forward to those that are yet to come, including tonight's special guest. So our guest for the evening is Robin W. Pearson, who is the author of 2 highly regarded novels, A Long Time Coming and Until I Want No More. Her writing sprouts from her Southern roots, and she has corrected grammar up and down the East Coast, starting with Houghton Mifflin Company. Her family's faith, life lessons, and life longings inspire her as a wife, homeschooling mother of 7, count 7, and author. And tonight we're here to discuss her new release, Dysfunction Junction. So without any further delay, let's welcome Robin W. Pearson to BGC Book Club. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's so exciting to have you here.
I'm excited too.
Yes. So first of all, congratulations on your latest release.
Thank you. I have a book baby, Walking in Tall Weeds is my 3rd book. So
Okay.
yeah, I shouldn't leave that one out. It's like you leave out one of your children, you know how they are. So I better
Right. Oh, yes, you definitely can't
that
read
middle child. I hate to leave it out.
Yes, well, thank you so much for sharing that so people know all of the different books that they can read. We actually have a couple of comments already. So excited for this talk from Rosie Lee, who is a former guest here as well, and then Angela Anderson. And so with Dysfunction Junction, your latest book, what was it that inspired you to tell this story?
Well, I think it was funny. I think on Instagram, someone asked a question about, just tell about yourself. And so I shared a story where when I was about 4 years old, I was hit by a car. And I was hit by my neighbor who was a preacher at the time, this long station wagon. And my sisters were playing across the street and I wanted to get to them, and I've told different versions of it. My sisters have told different versions, my mother, my dad. And it just made me think about that's how our lives are. We have different versions, different ways we have of memories, and how we relate to the truth. And as you get, farther and farther away, those memories change. Your relationships with each other will affect how you remember something. And so it made me think about a family and traumatic events that happen in a family. And your memory of the truth doesn't change what the truth is, but it can affect how you relate to it. It can affect how you change, how you live your life. So I thought there's a story in that, and actually include a little bit of that story in Dysfunction Junction. So it just explores, what truth is and how it affects us as we live.
Yes, it definitely does that, because I think about the fact that they say there's always his side, her side, and the truth.
Yes, that's one of the quotes I use at the dedication of the book. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And that is so true, because people definitely see, situations differently, even within the same family, or can have different experiences, especially if people are at different ages or stages born into a family, then they have, a different experience. And I love that your book does touch on that.
Yeah. If you even ask like my children, you'll hear something that like, that didn't happen, or it didn't happen that way, or she didn't do that, and someone might be angry about it or hurt by it, or, just didn't think it happened at all, but it still affects that person. So, and imagine with 7 children, how many different versions that you, that you'll get.
Well, we're going to get into the book here in a second, but let's talk about that. Now, you are a homeschooling
Yes.
mother of 7, and
Yes.
yet you still find time to be a wife and write books. Miss Lady.
I don't know. My husband might have a different version of that.
Okay.
But yes, we have 7, but they range from 11 to 26. So we
Okay.
can legally ignore, some of them at this point, even though I still try to manage everybody. Like my thumb is tired, but yeah. But we are still homeschooling, and we have 4 at home right now that we're homeschooling, and one is about to graduate and go to college in the fall. So yeah, almost down to 3.
Well, yes. Yay, mom and dad. Because I mean
Yes, we're
that's something.
tired.
Yeah, that's something right there to be
Yeah,
able to do
yeah.
that. And before we get into some of the questions, you've got some people who have seen you recently. I want to make sure that I take the time to acknowledge them. Actually, this comment was here before we even came on live. Miss Delta 1388 said it was a pleasure meeting you at Bookmark for your signing today. Maybe it was yesterday, I'm not sure. But an awesome
Yeah.
experience. Congratulations on your new book.
Thank you.
And then let me see, we have Julia Perkins Chisholm was present to also to see the Bookmark in Winston-Salem on Saturday. Oh,
Yeah.
she's your D9 friend. Okay. All right. I
Yes.
want to know which one of the D9, because I'm a Sigma
Delta.
Gamma Rho. Deltas.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I'm an
All
AKA. We talked about it a little bit on Saturday.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we got the
Sisterhood.
D9. It's
Sisterhood.
sisterhood. We're all sisters. And let's see, we have Abby Grace joining from Mississippi. Sharon saying hello. Yeah, you got a lot of people saying hi here. Dr. Velma Bagley saying hello.
Glad
Oh,
to
and
see
and someone laughing at the fact that you said legally ignore. So so yeah, so we just wanted to give everybody their shout out, because this ball gets rolling, I might not get back to that. So I wanted to make sure that I acknowledged everyone for your comments, and thank you for that. So, we got a little background as to what it is that made you decide to write Dysfunction Junction specifically. So for those who may not be familiar with the story or may not have had an opportunity to read the story yet, what is it? Give us a little synopsis of what the story is about.
Well, it's about these 3 women, and you have Frankie, Annabelle, and Charlotte, and they've grown up together. I won't reveal their connection, but and they're grown now. They have different families, relationships with each other, as well as the people in their lives. But their relationship with each other and the choices they've made in their lives are affected by their past experience. And so they can't quite agree necessarily on everything that happened. Um, but this phone call, one person gets a phone call, Annabelle gets a phone call, and it changes, some of the decisions that they have to make. It affects their relationships going forward. And they have to learn how to forgive. They have to learn how to let go of some things. Because we know holding on to things, it'll either, weigh you down or kill you. It can take you out. So they have to decide like what they're going to do with this information going forward, and if they're going to live to see a new day, basically. So yeah.
Yes, and I immediately, the story resonated with me. Well, I'm an only child, so not so much, the well, they are siblings. Not so much the sibling part, but just the whole part of I've watched people that I know and how things play out within families.
Yes.
Um, basically, as we kind of talked about earlier, as they all have these different ideas of what the story is of their
Yes.
life. But I also love the ways with the 3 main characters, Frances, Annabelle, and Charlotte, how they each had their own journey
Mm-hmm.
in their own way of choosing to cope with those things that
Right.
happened to them throughout their childhood.
Right.
So, from a
Right.
standpoint of being a writer, how was it for you to kind of craft the different characters and decide, what type of personalities or things like that that you were going to assign to each woman?
Well, I feel like I've met all of these women, because you think about going forward, if you've been affected by your relationships, those pivotal relationships, you as a child, they can determine whether you want to marry, not marry, who you marry, if you have children, where you live, if you want to go to the other side of the country or the other side of the world, if you want to return, your friendships, who you rely on, whether you can trust anyone. So, and I feel like I've experienced a lot of those things, just through friendships as well as in my own life. So you kind of pour yourself into each character. And that's this voice that, I don't know about other writers, but I can hear their voices and experience them and kind of get into those characters as you write. And it's hard to turn it off sometimes, but you pull from your own experience. You pull from conversations as you walk alongside other, friends and your own sisters. I have two older sisters.
Okay.
I'm the much, much, much younger sister in my family.
Okay.
No, I'm just joking. But yeah, so it's you pull from all of that when you pour into writing. And the Lord just inspired me to write. I'm trying to communicate, a truth, something that's real and something I've learned about love. Because I really, believe that, God, his love for us, it affects all our relationships. And so especially those people who you live with and who you relate to, those people close to you. So that's what I'm trying to write about, and that's what comes into the story.
Absolutely, it does. And there is another person. Well, we'll talk about her a little bit more. That we see that love and see how it shows up in a variety of ways. And it's befitting
Mhm.
that this is, Valentine's week. That a lot of people focus on love, and we think a lot about romantic relationships, but
Right,
understanding that love has so many different forms, and
right.
we see how that plays out in this book as well. So, just starting with one of the first ladies in the book that we want to talk about, Frances Mae Livingston. Now,
Mhm.
she is the elder of,
Yes.
of the sisters.
Yes.
And so, of course, we know that as an oldest child, they see everything. They
Yeah.
know where the bodies are buried. They understand everything.
Or they think they do.
They think they do, right, right, because they've been there and they've experienced,
Yes.
the people who raised them from the very beginning. So tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about Frances May, or Frankie, as she's also just called in the book, and kind of her place in the family.
She I think sees herself as the second mom or even maybe the first mom according to the others. And they may think that she has supplanted their own, mother, just because of how she takes care of them. I mean, Saturday I kind of talked about the idea of caregiving. We have
Mhm.
this, with my own parents and family. At different points in your life, you're doing caregiving. But I had said that in life we're all caregivers. We're caregivers of our relationships, of our friendships, of our spouses, children. It's not just taking care of parents. You think about love as we're talking about this week. How we love and how we care for others is so important. How we care for ourselves and our own heart. So Frankie struggles. She wants to be a caregiver to everybody, and I think I have an oldest daughter, and it's funny because we were out, and she calls herself. She says, "I'm the first daughter," as opposed to I'm the second oldest. She doesn't want to be the second oldest. She's the first daughter,
Okay.
because there's this hierarchy kind of in the family. And so as the oldest, Frankie just feels like I'm in control almost. I'm the vice president, if not the president, that at least that's how the other siblings might view her. So, but she just
Mhm.
struggles. She wants to love, she wants to make sure everyone's taken care of. And she kind of carries that role again with her own family. She's taking care of her husband, taking care of her children, because she wants to make sure everything is just so, and trying to make up for anything lacking. And that's impossible in our lives, but that's what we do. I think women have we have a habit of doing that, trying to make sure nothing, filling all the gaps and all the holes in everybody's life. And that's really impossible.
Right. And it's one of those things, I've said it to people, and I'm sure people who are watching can attest to this. Like, whatever you experience when you grow up, you can either decide, I want to do exactly like it was, or even if you don't decide that, you may, subconsciously be exactly like, the people were who raised you, or you might decide to do
Right.
something totally different because you're trying to make up for whatever
Yes.
things you felt might have been lacking. And I
Right.
definitely see that in Frankie.
Right. Exactly, exactly. But, we're looking for this fix and trying to fix it, but we can't fix ourselves and we can't fix everybody. We can't be that role, can't be somebody's everything. But that's, how she viewed herself, as a
Mhm,
child growing up. There's a need, and she filled the need. But who's filling that need for her, So that's what her search is, but something she's not aware of.
mhm. And like you, she homeschools.
That's right. Represent. That's right. Sister is tired. No, it's good though. I do try to incorporate, homeschooling or education or something in my novels because, I think it's, with educators, sometimes we don't get the love that, whether you're home or in a traditional school, to get that shout out in a way. So, yeah.
Mhm, and it's good to see. It was good to see that and see that reflection. So we also next we see Annabelle, who's in the middle, and she has a little bit of a different experience, making some decisions to maybe not want to follow the path of
Mhm,
staying at home and doing what may have been initially expected of her. So
mhm.
tell us a little bit about Annabelle.
Well, the book tries to, I talk about sibling. This is basically sibling dynamics and birth order. I mean, and we find that like I didn't really believe in birth order until I had my own children. I thought, that's just people making excuses, but it's real. It's a real thing. And for Annabelle, it was really real. She was, she felt ignored. She's like the middle child who, the older two. She wasn't the baby. She wasn't the oldest, and she kind of got lost, and part of her wanted to get lost. The home situation wasn't necessarily the best.
Mhm.
So, she wasn't the one who was looked up to, but she had her own needs and getting, forgotten. At least she felt that way in the middle. So, and she's the one who went the farthest away at the, when she had the opportunity. But then that helped, that hurts connection. So,
Mhm.
but that's, what she's struggling. So she's struggling now as a mom, as a future mom, a stepmom. These are all things on the cover, on the back cover.
Right,
So I'm not
not giving anything away.
I didn't mention the spaceship. No, just joking. So it's hard for her to find where she fits. She just feels left out. We try to avoid that here in our own home. You're trying to raise. I think I shared on Saturday, trying to raise only children. That
Mhm,
mindset of treating you as an individual, but it's
mhm.
difficult. And some things I think are just inborn with some of the birth order dynamics.
Mhm, and it's interesting that you say that. My best friend has 5 children, and she always says that she made a very conscientious effort to make sure that she gave individual time here and
Yeah,
there, but when you have so many, sometimes that can be difficult, because there's only
yeah,
1 of you or 2 of
right,
you in the
right.
case of a spouse, and you're trying to, give everybody individualized time when you have limited time to begin
Right.
with.
I make up for that by just ignoring everybody. So
I
so that
think
way
she's
they
getting
all
to
feel
that
the same.
point.
They all feel the same, equally ignored. No,
Right.
you love them. They're all so different, it's just
Right.
hard to you can't apply the same lessons. I've said this before, but you just love them and you're trying to do everything almost for them, but you can't, again, that's part of my personality that I put into Frankie, the oldest. So
Mhm, mhm.
yeah.
And then last but not least, we have Charlotte, who has
Right.
an even different experience as the baby of the family.
Right, don't forget the baby. I'm the youngest as well, but I think you all I don't know, you're always the baby. Where do you fall in birth order?
Me? I'm
Uh-huh.
the only,
Oh,
so
the only well, so you're all of those things. Do you
I'm
feel
all
all
of
of
the
those things?
above.
You have all the pressure, then all
I
of
have
it.
all the pressure, nobody to blame anything on.
Yeah, well, with Charlotte, she's the youngest, and then there's a bigger age gap between say, the oldest and the youngest. And she feels like she's not getting the credit because she's always viewed as the baby, even as an adult. She's not. She doesn't have any credibility. She's just kind of viewed as the yes man for her oldest sister, and so that hurts because she's whether she's a doctor, she's PhD, she's a psychologist, and so she wants them to trust her, and she just feels this need to take care of other people. And that's why she chose, she was led to kind of choose that profession, because here I have authority in my office. I can take care of others. I'm not getting that respect at home or within my own family, but I can get that, professionally. So, and of course, that once they're all coming together, they have that dynamic of just kind of warring with each other, because other people see them differently outside of
Mhm.
their family, but they kind of still see each other the same way as when they were children. And, I think, as adults, when we're dealing with each other, we bring our past, to our family reunions. And, we can become the same people we were in our mama's kitchen that we were when we were children. And we have, grown kids ourselves. So that's what they're dealing with.
Yes, and just seeing that whole dynamic play out is throughout the book is something, because as I said, I can relate, not so much for me, but watching it with other people. How,
Hmm.
there's the one who may have chosen to go away and live a different lifestyle, and people are, harbor maybe a little bit resentment towards the
Right.
person who chose to live a different life, to say, well, you just ran away, or you weren't here, or you
Right.
didn't support, or and not understanding that sometimes that is, just the best thing for that person in their life.
Right, right, right. It's just time you need to grow. And even your age may not reflect your maturity, your
Right.
level of maturity, because you're still carrying, when you're carrying around a lot of hurt, it hampers how you can grow. If you think about, sometimes you think about a plant that has to grow, and if it's not getting the right nutrients, it's going to have a stunted growth, however old the plant is, and it will wither and die. So for these, young women, they've had a stunted growth basically. So, they need different environment, I guess, to mature,
Hmm.
and for their relationship with each other to mature. Yeah.
Absolutely, to be able to grow and to, deal with the things that may have happened in the past, but
Right.
then shine a new light and be
Yes.
able to have a way of moving forward. And I think that that's sometimes a challenge for a lot of people. I
Yeah.
mean, we all know someone who is stuck in whatever was before, and they can't seem to, evolve beyond that. But
Mhm.
in this book we get to see how, maybe we might need to start making some different decisions, just
Mhm.
because someone, you mentioned earlier on, had fraught, romantic relationships. That doesn't mean that you have to, just because this
Right.
other person did. And one
Right.
of the things, the book is called Dysfunction. So
But junction, focus on
dysfunction
the junction.
Dysfunction Junction. So,
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit, because in this family, there are things that would lend itself to dysfunction, and how do people, how are we navigating this, or in telling the story, how did you choose to have your characters navigate that, realizing it's a real thing?
It's a real thing. Because I tried to think of, I guess, the junction part. We're going to get to a point in all of our lives where you have to make a choice.
Hmm.
And, are you going to stay where you are? Are you going to grow? Are you going to stay hurting? Are you going to allow healing to take place? And that's
Hmm.
what that crossroads, that's what the junction is. And they have an older character in the book, Miss Hattie, who kind of speaks wisdom to them. And then they have the relationships with their, either boyfriend or husband, or, um, someone in their lives who is trying to, help them see, okay, you're at this point in your life, but you don't have to stay at that point. And that's
Right.
like the dysfunction junction, like where something is not working, and it does something that's dysfunctional. It just means it's not working, it's not helping you. And you can make a change. So it's just about them having to decide, what am I going to do to change it? Am I going to trust God? Is he going to lead me to make this, a different decision that will help me move forward, and what relationships in my life, as well as how I feel about myself. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yes, and there, excuse me, it is, Christian fiction. I
Yes.
mean, we may not have said that before,
Right.
but it is. And I loved being able to watch the women, each woman, Frances, Annabelle, and Charlotte, they all had uh, various faith journeys.
Mhm.
And I loved being able to see that as well, because that's just the reality. A lot of times people may assume, hey, they are Black and they are Southern, coming up in North Carolina. So they're
Yeah.
just automatically going to be, some Bible thumping, holy
Right.
roller,
Right.
type of women, especially
Yeah.
based upon the time that they may have been growing up. So, but I love the fact that you're showing that people find their faith and their relationship with God and
Mhm.
spirituality differently. How
Right.
important was it for you to showcase that throughout the different characters?
Because I wanted to show, because one person can go through all those different stages, where that the three of them represent, where one is, really doesn't quite, believe I know God, but really, what is he doing for me? Or how is my relationship with him impacting my life? And then, new believers, or someone who, I believe God, but do I, or I believe in him, but do I believe him?
Mm.
And then you have someone who, oh yeah, if I go to church and I believe, but is it changing my life? Um, but I always, I'm a believer, and I feel like he gives me the stories that I have to tell. Um, and I know that just because, as a Christian, it doesn't mean I'm not going to have different problems. I'm not going to have
Right.
all the problems. Some days I feel like I have all the problems, but it
Mhm.
just depends on, it changes my approach to them and who I believe is taking care of them and who is taking care of me. And so that's what affects my stories and inspires my stories. I try not to preach. I save my preaching for my family here, um, at the house, but I hope I can give some hope in the hard, and that I can show like there's grace in the hard, and that there's a way out. There's a different way we can take. Um, so I did try to show people in different journeys, in
Right.
their life, and just how it impacts who they are and how they relate to other people
Ab-
inside the home and outside the home. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the reality of it is that there are peaks and valleys
yes.
in
Yes.
life,
Yes.
and just because a person is a believer doesn't mean that everything's always going to be good.
No. Almost the opposite.
Right, exactly. Because sometimes it's like, woo, you feel like you're getting hit harder. The more you try to believe, you get
Yeah.
hit harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but just to show that and to understand that, like it was just raining here a few minutes ago. Like, Lord, please don't let the internet go out. But, it rains on the
Yeah.
evil and the just. So,
Yeah.
it
Yes.
doesn't matter,
Yeah.
good, better,
Yeah.
and different. Yes. And
Yeah. You need
Velma.
that rain, right?
Yes,
Helps you
exactly.
appreciate the sun, right?
Yes, yes. Hope, grace, and a way out. Absolutely. So, one of the other big things about Dysfunction Junction is the fact that it takes place, really, we're seeing two stories. So, it's like we have what's happening in like the present, but then we
Mhm.
also have that look back to kind of, maybe understand, what happened in the past that may have led the women to where they are today. So was that a challenge from the point of crafting the story? Was that a challenge for you to tell like two dual timelines or?
It's funny because I didn't think of it as dual timelines until recently. I'm like, I guess I did write dual timelines, but I love to incorporate the past in my stories, like with all of them, from each book. I show how our past affects our present. It affects who we are. You can't leave your past, can't put it up to the side and say, I'm this person. Like, who you were and the things you did, they affect the choices you make and who you become. And you have to decide, is it going to be a hindrance or is it going to help me? Um, it's what I think I was saying Saturday, when you're trying to encourage yourself, you often have to look back. Like, you have to look back and say, okay, God, how did you help me through this thing?
Mhm.
And how are you faithful here? And that will encourage you and how you are moving forward and how he will help you, going forward. But I love writing about the past. If you think about, like, especially talking to it's what inspired my stories in the first place. I wanted
Mhm.
to write down, things from my grandmothers and the things they had told me and shared with me. And it inspired me to, write a long time coming, which I thought was my going to be my only book. Um,
Mm.
but it was, about this woman who was living in the past and was letting the hurts of the past affect, her present relationships. And so our past is very important, to us. And it's not about living in it and being mired in it, but it's about drawing from those experiences to help us and to move forward and move up. So, but with this story, these women have to decide, I had to show the past and show their relationship then and how it grew, because you'll see, how it was when it was just two of them and then three of them, and the things they went through and how it impacts their present, like the choices that they made. But you had to get to know them then when they were, smaller, and then as they grew, and hopefully to get invested in them,
Mhm.
and to see, and going forward. So then you'll see their children. And so you see their past, but then you see their future as well, as you see like new
Right.
generations coming and hopefully providing hope for them.
Mhm. Okay, now these next couple of people want to talk about without giving away too much.
Okay.
Now, of course, we already mentioned one, but I'm going to start with May Helen.
Okay. Everybody pauses. The room gets quiet.
Room gets quiet. May Helen,
Uh-huh.
who is the mother
Mhm.
of these young ladies. And, the person who births us or nurtures us through life, who our caregiver,
Mhm.
really has an impact. And there were a lot of things that with May Helen that there were some things that were actually good, as there
Mhm.
are with other, with anyone, and then things
Mhm.
that maybe weren't so much. Not giving away a lot. But that is oftentimes a reality for children.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're going to talk about daughters because this is about mothers and daughters a lot. But the relationships aren't always necessarily ideal or what we would think that they should be. And
Mhm.
that is challenging.
Yeah.
So was it challenging for you to kind of craft that part of the story, or it actually is very important to the story. So, I'm
Mhm.
talking without trying to give away too much. But that is something that I think it is important to be able to tell that though.
Mhm. Yeah, mothers and daughters, it's a complicated, it's an amazing relationship. It's a complicated relationship. Um, I remember growing up, my mom, she said to me, "I'm not your friend," you
Mm,
know. And I remember thinking I was just crushed, then I ended up saying the very same thing, to my first daughter. "I'm not your friend, I'm better than a friend." I wrote a whole, blog post about it. Um, but those words that we say and then the things that we don't say, they can really scar your children. They can impact your relationship with them, as when they're little, it can affect your relationship with them when they're older. They draw on those things that they feel that weren't there and the things that were there. So for these women, the things that were said to them, and the things that weren't said to them really, impacted, um, their relationship with each other. They, as far as whether feeling like they were less than in comparison to their sisters, or feeling left out, or feeling unloved, or feeling like this one was loved more, or that she got more time. It's a balancing. It's hard for us as, as parents, as daughters, um, trying to, to relate to our children, in a way that doesn't kill them or kill you, but,
mm.
um, yeah, I'm trying not to give too much
Right, right. I
away,
know.
but, they
Yeah,
and how you perceive the relationship, I mean,
right.
sometimes it's very obvious whether or not it was hurtful or not, or loving. It can be
Mhm,
very obvious,
mhm,
which you'll see within the book, but in your own life, how you perceive that relationship almost impacts you more than what really happened.
mm.
Um, but it's, your faith going forward can change all of that,
Right.
knowing the love of, the father, can change all of the hurt or all of the trying to impress someone or trying to earn love, which I think, a lot of kids are that's what we do. We try to impress with a grade, or we try to impress by doing something exactly like your parent, or, trying to be your mom. And then sometimes we try not to be our moms,
Right.
and you end up
That's
there anyway. You know what I mean? So that's what these women struggle with, trying not to be for one reason or another, or trying to be. Or trying to be more than, we have
mm,
that standard and they had that standard in their lives. And that's kind of where, I drew from, some of the things that I've said that I didn't think I'd ever say,
mhm,
or, or that I heard or that I felt, or, we were blessed to, have, great parents and, but as women, we're going to have interesting relationships, all our lives. It's, we were just, yeah. So that's what I'm drawing from and
mm,
creating this story. When I create characters, I don't try to create a bad guy, an
right.
unredeemable person, because we all have that capacity to hurt or to help within
Mm,
us. So I'm really trying to draw these, real characters um, who you can see these awful things in, but then you can say to yourself, what is it, and how do I connect with that character, So that's what I tried to do for May Helen. So yeah.
yes, and one thing about May Helen, that she, I mean, I've already said this, she's a very complex person,
Hmm.
and it showed up in the ways that she lived her life. It
Yeah.
showed up in her ability to mother, to partner, to be, a citizen of the community, all of those different things.
Hmm.
And oftentimes when you see someone who's complex, it's easy to be in judgment
Hmm.
of that person because of the things that maybe we see that we don't think are ideal, but then, like the word you used earlier, grace, you
Hmm.
know, and, maybe, I guess reading it, it's like, wow, in the back of my mind, it's like, ooh, I really want to know more about her as well, because you talked about
Yeah.
the girls, but I really want to know more about her as well, because it's like,
Yeah.
some of her choices and things, it
Right.
makes me wonder, like, what was it?
Hmm.
What things may have happened. I think Oprah and somebody else had a book like "What Happened to You," but things, yeah,
Yeah.
had a few
Yeah.
years ago. But I mean, it's true. Things
Yeah.
happen to people that really that show up in their lives. I mean, we see it in her offspring,
Hmm.
but then to understand that there were probably things that were going on with her as well.
Yeah. And it's often too, like in our relationships or as that it's almost the presence and the absence of someone
Mhm.
affect you, So, and it's really how you handle that relationship that that affects you so much, So, yeah, but there are a lot of different ways to look at May Helen, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Y'all have to read it. We're not telling. But you already did mention the other like key female character in the book, and that's Miss Hattie. You
Mhm,
mentioned her before, how she's a person that is someone that the girls are able to really bond with and have a relationship. Really throughout the course of the book. Which is pretty much their lives up to a certain point. And I thought it was very powerful to have her there to show that there are people who can step in and be really good nurturers and become friends or neighbors that become like family. um,
mhm.
Talk a little bit just about that whole thing, especially I'm thinking in the South, small town. I mean, it's something that tends to happen
Right,
oftentimes, but
yeah.
yes.
Well, one of the things that inspired me was Psalm 27:10. I think it is like when my mother and father abandoned me or forsake me, then the Lord would take care of me. And so for them, that kind of represented, Miss Hattie. I wanted to show that how even though you may feel forsaken, and we all do at some point in our lives, probably in either our at work or in our homes, in a friendship, or, where you feel betrayed or you feel lost or at a loss, that God provides. Like he will provide, and you are not by yourself. And so for these women, I tried to show that physical representation of that promise in Miss Hattie, and that she was this, neighbor who reached out to them, and someone who was an integral figure in their lives, the rest of their lives. So she never stopped loving them. She was that disciplined. She cared for them, spoke truth into their lives. She said the hard things that needed to be said. And even as grown folks, she said those hard things, but in love. And they needed that. And, we need that. We need someone to speak some truth and to support us, in our lives, that, God won't leave us alone. And then they also had relationships with their, significant others who
Mhm.
will speak truth into their lives. Um, but we moved around a lot. And my husband, we like moved up and down the East Coast, like trying to get away from the library fines, I guess. But we, but all along the way, so we weren't always near family. Like I wasn't always near my parents or his parents or even my sisters. And so, but we developed family out of friends, and we had a women's group. We lived in Florida. We were raising our kids together, and just, it's called the Hannah Circle, and we loved on each other. We disciplined each other's kids. I think my oldest son got spanked by my best friend's
Yeah,
husband.
we can
You
do
know what I
that,
mean? Like
right?
he has not forgotten. He has not forgotten. So you have to. We're that community, for each
Mhm.
other, and we've we've had that in each location that we've lived from, Boston to Florida, back to North Carolina, New Jersey, and or we've had people who have become our brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews. I have, I'm an auntie, I'm godparent. So for those women, they needed that. They needed to have, when they couldn't talk to each other, they had, others. And if they didn't have their mother speaking, loved, they had, Miss Hattie. So that's who she represented, God's provision for them.
And that's so powerful. I mean, for a lot of reasons. Number one is Black people. We tend, historically, we are communal anyway. I'm talking back to the motherland.
Mhm.
We are communal. So that's just something that's a part of, kind of inbred within us, that to be in community and, to support one another, and, to have those play cousins and those, aunties and stuff like that who
Yeah.
really aren't related. So, I loved being able to see that, because there's power in that community. And I, like
Mhm.
you, I've moved a lot, as well. Being from Ohio originally, spending time in the Air Force, and traveling and living a lot of different places. And, I was telling a friend recently that I'm kind of tired of that, and now that I'm in the Atlanta area,
Uh-huh.
I've got, I'm connected with my sorority chapter. I got a church home. I just made sure that I'm really putting myself in position to really be able to develop those communities, because it is so
Mhm.
important when you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have blood family near you. And let's face it, sometimes even the blood family isn't going to give you what those other people will give you. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah.
true. It's
Yeah.
just reality.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. So that's what
Mhm.
they had to rely on. So, and then they had to learn how to rely on each other in a different way. Like, you're not always the baby. You're not the big sister. You're not the, we could be friends. That's, or at least relate to each other in a way that doesn't, that builds each other up, as opposed to breaks each other down. So, yeah.
All right, so we got a couple more comments. Okay, we have greetings from the English Channel Islands.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
okay, not
Hello.
sure where that is. Well, welcome, welcome.
Wow.
Yeah, we do get some international every now and again. It has
Right.
some love. Oh, a couple of questions about just your books in general. Can your books be enjoyed independently? They're not sequels.
They're not sequels. Yes, you can read them independently. I love reading things in order, but you can buy them all at one time. I don't
Yeah.
mind. Like you can buy all at once, and then, start with A Long Time Coming, but you can jump right into any of them. I love to write books where it feels like you're jumping into their lives. You're seeing almost a day or a month or a year in the life, and that
Mhm.
these characters are still living when you start reading them. So, so feel free to jump into any of their lives at any point.
All right. Julia, her second question, are any of the books on audio?
Yes, yes, they're an ebook, soft cover, hardcover, audiobook. Yes,
All
yeah.
right.
My husband
Let's
found it on Hoopla the other day, so we're excited at the library. So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yes, and that is the thing since you said that, because you've mentioned libraries a couple times. And
I'm a homeschool
basically,
mom, so sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
I'm a
homeschool
homeschool mom, so yeah.
library is your friend. So, but that's just something. If you go to your local library and you don't see Robin's books, you make sure you request them
Yes, please,
because
please.
that's important.
Yeah.
We realize that everybody may not be able to purchase for whatever reason, but,
Mhm.
get them in the library.
Yeah.
Okay, we got some other comments. People are loving us tonight. Okay, somebody,
That's my
Starlin saying
sister.
hi.
That's my sister,
Hey,
yes.
sis. And some other authors, Rhonda McKnight
Hi,
is here
Rhonda. Hi.
to and Valerie, yes, I purposely put this on. Perfect Three Sisters. That's exactly why I put this on for that
I got the
reason.
book, the earrings with
Oh
dysfunction.
wow. Okay. Yes, yes. So I usually try to do that. Rhonda saying she's late. Yes, please watch the replay. And she is one homeschool mom to another. Oh wow. I didn't
Yeah,
realize that. Rhonda. I have interviewed her before as well, and she's coming back soon.
yeah.
So, but yes, so that's just great. Love the love. See, this is the whole thing.
Yes, right.
Community. You see all the people popping in, and we're having a
Yes,
real, conversation. So I love that.
yes.
That's the whole point of having this space. So, Dysfunction Junction is a powerful story. There is so much to glean from it, just to watch the women as they interact with one another, as they deal with the past and the present, and
Mhm.
consider what the future is going to look like,
Right,
um,
right.
as they navigate relationships,
Yeah,
their own as well as with others. So
yeah.
this packs a powerful punch,
Thank
Miss Rob.
you. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Yeah,
It
they have to learn
definitely
how to
does.
trust. Yeah.
Yes,
It comes down like
yes,
in a relationship, trust is so important.
yeah.
And once it's broken, it's hard for it to be restored. It's hard for it to be restored for you to trust other people or to trust each other. So yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
thank you, Julia.
But yes, I said, and when I was talking about it earlier, you see faith, you see family, and you see forgiveness.
Mm,
All of those things are
yeah,
themes that run throughout the book.
yeah. Yeah. In our lives, sometimes we have to learn how to forgive, even if the person doesn't ask you to,
Mhm.
and so that's a part of dysfunction junction because not forgiving there's a quote about that, like it's hating someone, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other
Mhm.
person to die,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
yeah, it's putting
Mhm.
the poison down, pouring it out. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that is so powerful to be able to do that, because it helps you, ultimately
Right,
to be
right.
able to put that down and not carry things, especially in some situations where the person that you might seek that forgiveness from or
Mhm.
understanding from, you may not ever get it for a variety of reasons. I'll
Right,
just leave it at that. And
right,
so, how do you, heal?
right.
Because I see this as a healing story as well.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm, mhm. So I know that, like I said, we had a lot of feedback today, and I'm loving that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, people love you. They love the book.
Thank
They
you.
hopefully love this platform as well. And so, for those of you who are watching, or maybe came in a little later, please feel free to re-watch or to share it with others, or whatever the case may be. Oh, Rhonda's saying she has the audio book. She loves the
Okay.
narrator. So
Great.
since that question was asked earlier, did
Yes.
you play a role in choosing the narrator for the book, Robin?
Yes. Well, Jan, my publisher, she, asked, I got to listen to different, narrators and kind of rank who you're looking for because, as a Southerner,
Mhm.
we don't all sound the same,
Right.
everybody doesn't say y'all the same way. So it's important because I want the book to sound, feel, taste, everything, like, North Carolina, but, so it's a hard choice, but yeah, so I did get to help select the person who was going to read it. So yeah, I think it's Lanisha. I don't remember her last name, but oh great. I'm glad you love the narration, Jana. Yes. Good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody laughed at me, say, "We don't all say y'all the same."
And not everybody says y'all, and we don't all meet it either. So
Right,
yes,
right, yeah.
yes,
Right,
yes.
like, "Y'all come back now, you
Yeah,
hear?"
that's right. But we may not mean for you to come back though.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, most publishers don't let authors have
Yeah,
input, so that was good. That's
yeah.
good.
Tyndale is very good.
And
Yeah.
the thing about my father is from Southern Ohio. They don't say y'all, they say yuns.
Oh.
So, a lot of people like yuns. What is yuns? Yuns is y'all.
Yeah. So how
But
would you spell that?
I
Because I'm
have no
always looking, I'm always getting information for a book. So how would you spell that?
yuns. I don't know.
But you
I
knew
mean,
who you were talking. You knew who he was talking to, though.
right. Yes, 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 yeah. Yuns, however you want. But yeah, that's and like he and his, my aunts and uncles, my grandmother's passed away. That family that's from that part of the country, the only people
Uh-huh.
I've ever heard use that term. So yeah, it definitely makes sense that you would want. Oh, Rhonda's kid. Girl, I don't know. But yeah, yuns. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
That's
like you guys, or yeah,
uh-huh.
I heard that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but
Yeah.
even in
It's,
North Carolina, we have such a range of accents. You have a range of you have Eastern North Carolina, you have the mountains, you have it's just so it just depends on where you are. Even in my family, like you have different because some
right.
were raised in New Jersey, some were born, Florida. So it just
Mhm.
depends on who's talking. So.
Right, right. Oh, yes, and thank you for this question. Now we know the title, Dysfunction Junction.
Mhm.
Robin has kind of explained that a little bit, the junction. Well, I'll let you say it again. But
Uh-huh.
then also the cover, what was it that, yeah, and it does go really good with mine.
Yeah. That's good with anything. Yeah, it's like it blends right in.
It
Yeah.
does, it
Yeah.
does. So the cover, who helped to decide with that?
The publisher, like we talked a lot. We did a lot of back and forth with Tyndale, and they're wonderful. A lot of input. Some, a lot of tears. I think I shared online once, just a lot of back and forth with the cover and deciding this time to go with an illustrated cover. And they even asked me, what's my favorite color? I love orange, so you have the spine on there with the
Mm,
orange. And
mhm,
and I actually, there's a devotional. I was able to write a devotional that kind of accompanies the book. It's on the Life Bible app, and you can see like the little orange pants on that. But we wanted to have, elements. And if you look at the book, she's
mhm,
facing away from certain things
mhm,
on the cover, like in behind her, there are scenes actually you'll find in the story.
mhm.
So they were very detailed.
Yeah, I see it. I
Yeah,
see it
Eva
now.
Winters
I
was
didn't notice it
behind her.
before, but yeah, I see it now, the
Yeah,
things behind her. Mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
cookie and some other things. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So Eva, she, pulled those elements, from there. And as for me, and I think I shared this on Saturday, like it's like she's facing, is she, for you, is she facing away from those things? Is she facing her future? Is she turning her back on what those things represent? Is she turning her back on her family? It just depends, I guess, on, what the reader thinks when they look at the cover. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's a beautiful cover. I struggled at first, I'll admit, because as a Black woman, some readers may not want to read your book based on the cover. They'll feel like I don't identify with that cover. But I
Mhm.
try to write stories I want you to identify with the story, because we're all going through these things,
Mm,
whatever color you are. But I love her. So she's beautiful.
yeah.
She's beautiful. But I did wonder at the beginning, who's not going to read this story because of this cover, but I can't worry about that,
No,
So yeah,
no,
I can't worry about that. And I'm
right.
grateful to Tyndale for their vision.
And the people that are meant to read the story, they're going to read it.
They're going to read.
Mhm.
I hope they connect with it.
Yes, yes, because it's definitely, as I will continue to say to anyone who asks, it's a powerful story.
Thank
And
you.
even though it may, because that is one thing, I will say that we're actually at time, believe it or not. But I will say this, that even in reading the story, yes, I know that it's about Black women, but it's not, the fact that they are Black is not central to the story.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's a
Right.
universal story,
It's a
as Rhonda
universal
just
story.
said.
Yeah.
We write universal stories, but it's hard to choose the cover. Black
Right.
people see themselves on the cover, but some don't want to see us on the cover. Right,
Right. Right.
right, right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's just true. So I know that you have a lot of wonderful things going on. You are a busy, busy, busy lady.
Well, so are
So
you.
yes, because I often tell people I do actually have a day job too. I do
Wow.
interviews a couple times a week and, manage all of this and still have a day job. So, yes, I am a busy woman. But in terms of people wanting to see you, we have already had some people in the room who mentioned that they've seen you, been to some book signings and things like that. Where are some of the places that you may be in the upcoming days where people can come out and see you or
I'm
watch you perform
or
like this?
watching. Well, you can come help me in the kitchen. You can help me in the kitchen. That would be great. But I will be at Barnes and Noble at the Arboretum in Charlotte, February 24th from 2 to 4. And I'll be in South Carolina and Columbia. I think it's 5 to 7, March 8th. And I'll be on Angela Anderson Presents coming up. So excited about that. So you can see me in person or virtually, or find me online at robinwpearson.com or Instagram, Facebook. So yeah.
All right, and those things have been scrolling at the
Yes.
bottom. Oh, so Rhonda's saying, where in Columbia again?
At the Barnes and Noble. So yeah.
And it's
And
on
I
your
think
website or on your social,
yes,
correct?
I'm sharing it, and I'm so grateful. I was able to support Rosie Lee and her book, endorse her book. It's also about sisters, so it
And
was
she's been here.
yes,
She was my
yes,
first
been a
guest this
great
year.
interview. So yeah, I learned she's a doctor and all of that. So yeah,
Awesome, awesome. So we have some more comments. Well, thank you, Abby. We appreciate you, and definitely appreciate Robin for being here. And the art in the background, actually, those are paintings that I did. So
oh wow,
thank you.
wow,
Thank you. Someone asked me the other day what is one of the things I wanted to do this year, and it's like start creating more art.
oh
So
that's
yes,
wonderful, that's
yes.
wonderful.
So thank you so much. And so everyone, Robin, I'm gonna let you grab a sip of water. Thanks again so much for being here. Don't
Thank
hang up
you.
just yet.
I
But I
won't.
do want to announce next week's book, but I'll let you go grab some water.
Okay.
So thanks again. Thanks
Thank
again.
you. Thanks so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, that was such a wonderful interview, and I'm glad that Rhonda was able. I'm sorry, Robin. Rhonda, I'm looking at your name, but I'm talking about Robin, so forgive me. But yes, I'm so glad that she was able to join us to talk about Dysfunction Junction. So glad that all of you were with us as well to, be a part of the conversation and just to learn more about, the book process and all of that, and seeing some of my former and future guests in the room. So I appreciate all of you for being here, and thanks for continuing to be supportive of BGC Book Club and Brown Girl Collective. Now, if you are in the market for any of the books that we have discussed here or are upcoming, you can go to the Brown Girl Collective bookstore at www.browngirlcollectivebookstore.com. That is tied to Bookshop. And if you go there, you will see the people that I have interviewed going all the way back to 2020. The only way you won't see them is if Bookshop doesn't carry it. But other than that, All of those books are there, as well as some others that I have recognized over the years through some of the annual book recaps. So go ahead and check those out there. And please join next week for D9. It's the blue and the gold back there. Sigma Gamma Rho. Yep, it's her right there. So yes. But so next week, actually, we're going to be going in a little bit different direction with the book. And that is Madness by Antonia Hilton. It is a nonfiction book about race and insanity in a Jim Crow asylum. So that is going to be very, very different, but yet an important story to tell. Actually, Madness is on the New York Times bestseller list. So, I'm excited about being able to have a conversation with Antonia about that. And then I didn't bring it in here with me, but in a couple of weeks, we'll have Praise Songs for the Kitchen Ghost by Crystal Wilkinson. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. That's an even different type of story, which is about her family and recipes and cooking, and how people speak, how her family members and loved ones speak to her when she is, in the kitchen and preparing meals and food and stuff like that. So we love to mix it up here a little bit. So that's just Mondays. Of course, there are other things that are happening on Wednesdays as well. So just stay tuned. And if you can't catch stuff live, always know that the replays stay up on YouTube. And if you're not subscribed on YouTube, please subscribe so that you can know what's coming up and make sure you get those reminders and things like that. So yes, Julie, I do these interviews weekly, Mondays and Wednesdays. So yes, your girl don't get a whole lot of sleep. Well, I get my rest. But I do put a lot of energy and effort because I just think it's so important for us to have these conversations. And so that's why I'm here. So yes, you can find the interviews on Facebook as well as YouTube, but I would suggest YouTube is just good because you will really get all of the reminders and stuff like that there. And, subscribers are good. So that is it. Yes, I am a busy girl, Julia. So thank you everyone for being here again. I appreciate your time, your energy, your attention, your willingness to pop in and leave comments and things like that, all the love that you show, and know that the love is coming back to you in return. So thanks again for all that you do. Continue to watch, continue to share it out, and continue, most importantly, to support the different writers and authors, because it's important for us to be able to tell our stories. So you all take good care, and I look forward to seeing you again. If not on Wednesday, look on Wednesday evenings. Look forward to seeing you on Monday evenings as well. Take good care. Bye-bye.